Am I right to go here, John Lopez, dating back to the Kansas City game where, I don't know if you remember, the Texans beat the Kansas City Chiefs 20-10. I just wanted to say that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, just in case you don't recall, the Texans beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Just want to make sure that
on Sunday night.
That Sunday night football.
No Letterman, Jack.
Cold outside, kicking field goals.
Yeah.
There was a missed field goal, and it was from the Kansas City Chiefs side. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same. We're good. We all remember this, right?
Yes.
Within that game, though, did the O-line improvement that we've seen noticed from the Texans' offensive line, where they've gotten the five that they needed together and the cohesion had been there, did they get exposed a little bit?
How so?
Well, I think that one of the things that I go to is, well, first and foremost, you just saw Chris Jones go crazy.
I feel like that's almost a one-off because he's that good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where you go, he's that good.
That's like saying Myles Garrett went off.
Right.
Yeah.
Although you think about it and you go, hey, what happens in the playoffs if not we get rid of the bad teams and it's just good teams? And right now, looking at the AFC playoffs, and I have not done this ahead of time, so this is just stream of consciousness, right? The teams in the AFC playoffs, the Broncos, we've seen them, and they've got good pass rushers, maybe not individually good pass rushers, but they have good pass rushers. You've played them. The Patriots pass rushers, who am I thinking of there?
Just a good defense also, kind of like the Broncos.
Yeah, it's a solid defense.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about that, but I'm trying to think individual pass rushers like Kayvon Chason, I guess. There aren't necessarily guys that I go, Harold Landry. Well, I probably need to give him his credit. The Jacksonville Jags, we know them. They've got the Josh Hines-Allen that, oddly enough, did not really impact the games that you played versus them. Who else do you have in that that is still vying? Yeah, I don't know necessarily that there's a lot of individuals that are of the same magnitude. Pittsburgh Steelers, T.J. Watt, if they make it.
Yep.
The Ravens don't necessarily have. The Chargers is Khalil Mack still doing that same thing to you. The Bills don't really have anybody, especially without Ed Oliver. Yeah,
when is he supposed to be back?
I do not recall. Off the top of my head, I really can't tell you. But okay, so maybe that's not it. One of the things that Steve Spagnuolo absolutely tore you up with very unique and frequent blitzing, and that is something where I wonder. Yes, Steve Spagnuolo is particular in his desire to blitz a lot. Is that some level of blueprint or book out on this offensive line that teams that are coming, especially as the Texans become more of a team that people go, all right, we need to make sure we beat them, that they will take heed of and maybe heat you up in that way?
So you're talking about blitzing teams.
Possible.
I feel as if that might be the only way to get to the Texans. Ed Ingram did not have a particularly good game.
No, surprisingly, because again, coming into that game, if you were to ask me who's been the best offensive lineman for the Texans, yes, I would give praise to Ariante Harris-Reed as a rookie coming in holding down that spot. Of course, you got to give Titus Howard his love for being good in all three different spots that he's played this year. But I'd probably say Ed Ingram, especially because what they want to do is be a little bit of road graders and go forward. Ed Ingram did that really well, except not in this game.
Not in this game. And I hadn't really thought about this until you mentioned it before the show. What you're talking about is, did they get exposed? Did they get exposed to unique pressures? And I think that is fair based on what the Chiefs did. As you mentioned, Spagnuolo is one of those next-level type of coordinators. But the other part of that is significant is you're going to be playing very good defenses, very good defensive coordinators, and we absolutely should start talking about, the teams you're going to face in the postseason, because it looks like you're going to make the postseason. And what they will see on film. I mean, it's that is something that that every team still does significantly. Like, what did they do? How did they get there? Now that's something that I think is absolutely concern. Might be a little bit much, but maybe one of those spots that they're going to try to pick at. Blitzing the Texans with unique blitz.
And the reason that at least in that place I might go, actually maybe not, is when you look at the teams that blitz the most, at least into the point of the season, it's either there's not a lot of teams that I'm super concerned about possibly seeing. The Vikings have the most have the highest blitz rate in all the NFL, there. Right? Brian Flores likes doing that. NFC, Falcons, NFC, Kansas City Chiefs. You just saw them, and you might have been one of the larger reasons that they might not make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
The New York Jets.
You won't see them.
Miami Dolphins.
Again.
Pittsburgh Steelers is a little interesting. They do like blitzing, and obviously, as I mentioned, you talk about an individual who might be able to replicate that level of Chris Jonesian performance. T.J. Watt is one of those names that you think of. All right, put a pin in that one. Broncos, Okay, fair enough. But Bucks, Lions, Bears, Saints, Browns, Jags are the next closest at 13. My point is, one, you're definitely not seeing those through the remainder of the season. Through the remainder of the season, you don't have teams that are going to blitz you, at least not habitually in the way that they've gone about it. And maybe there's a couple of teams that are inclined towards that and have that within their repertoire that you might see in the playoffs. But we've seen teams, even this year, go from they don't blitz a lot to that team we're blitzing and finding success. And that's one of the things that I go, oh, is that going to be a thing where the particular types of blitzes that you might need to use against this offensive line have been demonstrated?
I think that's fair. I also think it's fair to say, what about the teams you might face again and what they're learning about what they did that worked and didn't work? See, I think that's the other side of this. You've played the Bills and you worked them. Still came down to the very end, but you worked them. And they're going to look at if you face the Bills again, they're going to make those adjustments on how they try to pressure the quarterback. You faced the Jaguars twice. You face them again at some point. They're going to look at how they can maybe tweak what they did. You've played the Broncos. They're going to look, if you face them again, they're going to look at how can we change it. So I think it comes down to as I said, the unique blitz options, packages, whatever you want to call them, that they're going to bring are going to be like something you haven't seen before, maybe like something you saw from Steve Spagnuolo.
On the text line from the 713, they said it didn't just expose the offensive line, but CJ pre-snap have to hard count to slow down elites like Jones. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Y'all clown me about the statistics, and I think I get it. But within there, right, having that varied time before you snap makes the defense have to pause, have to think about what you're doing here, and maybe that can help slow things down. I would like to see them implement those things. For that reason, the opportunity to maybe get yourself some more tools that could help CJ pre-snap, making sure to diagnose these things and pick them up. Because that's another thing. As much as the book might be out that way for defenses to know, I think there's also a book internally where if you self-scout appropriately, you should be able to see that and go, okay, now how do we batten up the hatches? How do we help secure that so that doesn't happen again? And hopefully they're able to do that, especially against a number of teams, at least down the stretch and maybe in the playoffs, that aren't inclined to do that.
And I think a lot of teams are going to look at this Texan squad and say, all right, what can we pick at? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. You blitz up the middle. You make Jake Andrews block you. Texter said Jake Andrews, well, he said he's the worst, but, he hadn't had a good season, that's for sure. He said he gets ragdolled. I think if you're an opposing team, you're like, that's the mark. That's the mark. That's where we play the games. Texans have had a few issues earlier in the year, a lot of issues earlier in the year in the stunts and the crosses and all that stuff and the games they play up front. I think if you blitz, you can blitz up the middle and make Jake Andrews make a play. So I think that it is. I'm not going to say exposed.
Yeah, and I wouldn't.
I think there are that they're going to try to do that they haven't done before.
Agreed. And I wouldn't either, but it was one of those things where I go, oh, okay, this does not match up quite with what we felt like we were doing. And it's mostly that third quarter. The third quarter is where it got really egregious with the adjustments. Would you agree with the sentiment that's coming in right now on the text line that the Texans made the appropriate adjustments in the fourth quarter in order to kind of balance that thing back out?
I guess yes, but it was also the C.J. Stroud quarter. It was also him off script. And maybe that's part of the adjustment. Hey,
and then them really just deciding to run the ball
and then
for
running
2
the
to 3
ball.
yards.
And D'Amico talked about it on the coach's show yesterday. He said what he said last week. Like, we're not going to have a lot of success very often, but we're going to keep at it. And when they kept at it, they started to get some bigger. Actually, it was Caserio. They're going to get some bigger chunks. Bigger being 6 or 8 yards.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
and that's why I think running the football is going to be necessary. The particular way that they go about using more personnel or bigger personnel. You referenced a stat that funny enough you can't find right now, but I will take your word for it. The idea that Blake Fisher, when he's coming in these jumbo packages, is actually producing it away by some metric that is not as good as if you just used a regular tight end. With the return of Kate Stover, do the Texans need to lessen or maybe even stop their usage of the jumbo package?
My answer is yes, but I don't see them doing it. They used him again a lot.
They did.
Against the Chiefs. I think they just believe he's a lineman, put him at tight end, he will help, and you can double team maybe some of these edges and ends and stuff a little better. But the numbers haven't – I mean, the numbers are there that you're better off just putting a tight end there, or you have been. Now, to be fair, there's – when you have a regular tight end there, it's probably more of a running down. So when you pass, you're probably going to have some play action anyway. and face a little bit less pressure. But Blake Fisher has not been the big plus that you thought he would be.
And to be fair, damn it, he was of great value when you started using it. I don't think that just because it was useful early does not mean inherently that it continues to be of use to you. It's going to be something that at least I continue to keep my eye on, and I don't know if how it works versus the Cardinals should be necessarily the way that you make your decision on utilizing it, but that is an interesting thing, and I will want to look at that more, what the Blake Fisher jumbo sets versus maybe having Cade Stover in as that tight to block. Now, there are instances where they'll do the jumbo set and then tack Cade Stover on right next to him, and it's just like, all right, well, now you have the big body and Cade Stover to do that. But in theory, at least, if you have Cade Stover, you have the threat of throwing the football, although they haven't really thrown the football to Cade Stover either.
They have not. They've tried, and he's dropped it, and that's why they stopped.
Fair.
And with this Cardinals defense, one of the things, and this is something that we're going to talk about here at 1 p.m. with Tyler Drake from Arizona Sports, who's going to be joining us. Walter Nolan is starting to play a lot better.
Well, he's starting to play.
Yeah.
He had some injuries that he was dealing with.
But he's made some plays. I've seen some things from the Cardinals side that are saying, and he's an interior that can go outside, kind of move around, pressure, et cetera. So, that's going to be one of the things you have to watch.
Yeah, the O-line improvement, I think ultimately what the game versus Kansas City did for us, you just can't take this for granted. And I hope that also Nick Haley took that, because at times it felt like, especially in the first half, we can open this thing up. And the way that I talked about it with a group of my friends was, all right, yes, you don't have a lemon anymore, but I don't think that means you can just open this thing up to 100 on the highway.
Oh, God, no.
And I don't know if that was the equivalent of opening it up to 100 on the highway, but it did feel like they were starting to feel like, oh, man, the offensive line is better, and we could just – no, it's still going to need certain protecting. And so I think that is the thing that was exposed for me, not necessarily that the offensive line improvement was exposed of itself. All right, you're in the loop here on Sports Radio 610, and I didn't even come back to the idea of CJ pre-snap. I do want to see some of that operation, because operation was a watchword in this game. I do want to see that continue to improve, and so I'm interested in watching this game to see how much better or if it does become better as it goes.